about that. Hopefully you can hear me now. I went on about this whole thing. I'm going to start from the top and try to recap this. I really apologize. I was working on some other things and somehow I shut my microphone off so y'all couldn't hear me. But hopefully we can recapture this and help you guys out. So I'm going to get live stream back on TikTok now. And oh, hey, everybody. It's don't know what happened there. Don't want that. All right, we're going to try this again. So, you guys, can you hear me now over on YouTube, on Facebook? Can you hear me? So, you guys, okay, back. Today I'm talking about the gut and insulin resistance. Really, I'm going to focus in this little piece on the gallbladder. Good. Yay, sorry about that, Judy, and you guys over here. And I'm going to share about the gallbladder because I share a lot about what's happened with me, and that's why it's so important for me to come and share these things with you guys. I'm just a connect the dots person. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionist. I worked in medical. I worked in endocrinology. I worked in hormones. I worked in allergies. I worked in urgent care, but I ended up having to start figuring out what was going on with my own health because my doctors couldn't help me. I had one doctor call me in and tell me after we ran so many tests, hundreds, thousands of dollars worth of tests, and she was devastated and told me that I had the worst metabolic type that she could have come through and that there was nothing she could do to help me. So when I'm here talking about it, there's this need for me to help people because if you're as frustrated as I was, your doctor's not giving you answers, they don't know what to do for you, and you're suffering. I want that to stop. So I'm trying to bring to you the pieces that I know. Now, I don't know everything. I focus in on insulin resistance. I focus in on the things that happened with me and the things that maybe you guys ask me about. So today, this week, I've been talking about gut health, right? There's so much to that. And look for the videos because I will be putting out 3 or 4 more today, mostly to do with the gallbladder. Yesterday, I dealt a lot with the liver and fruit juice. Did anybody see the fruit juice video? So you guys, when you say some nonsense, here's what's going to happen with you. We're just going to get rid of you, okay? So I don't deal with nonsense on my page. All right, I'm here to help people. So look, what happened with me, long story short, is I was really sick. We found out that, I got diagnosed as diabetic. I'm going to recap everything. Sorry on TikTok if you're hearing this for the second time. But I got the diagnosis of diabetes. My numbers were going up rapidly. My doctors couldn't explain it. Nobody had help for me. And then I was trying everything, medications, diet. I went gluten-free. I did veganism. I did all the things. I did keto. I mean, all over the board trying to fix my health. And it wasn't working until I stumbled on the 2 products that I use and talk about today. And that's a tea that I drink in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I drink before I eat anything, really. And it changed everything. And at first I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is great. So amazing that it reversed my diabetes, because it did reverse my diabetes. I'm not on any medications, came off of 10. But in that whole story, in that whole time, my liver panel was high. It should be on Facebook, Judy, on my Living Vibrantly with Misha page. If not, I will put a link in this chat when we're done, or and I'll recap it a little bit here. But yeah, fruit juice, it makes me crazy when I see grandparents giving their kids fruit juice, or mom and dad's giving their kids fruit juice, and I'll explain why in a minute. But look, so I changed my health, right? With 2 real food products. I got off of all my medications, reversed my diabetes. I lost 50 pounds. I mean, if you see old pictures of me, my face doesn't even look the same. And I'm trucking along and I'm feeling like Wonder Woman, right? Superwoman, something. And all of a sudden I get sick. And I mean, I get really sick, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I have the worst stomach pain I've ever had. And I thought it was food poisoning that just wasn't clearing out. And I was trying to do all the things. I finally, several days in, I don't even know how many days, got up, drove myself to the hospital because I didn't want to bother anybody. And I didn't want to be a nonsense nuisance if it was something that was silly, right? So I get to the hospital. I found out that I was about 2 hours from death, is what the nurses told me. Had I waited 2 hours more, I would have died. I was so septic. And why? How did I get to that place of being so septic? Because my gallbladder got blocked, or the bile ducts from my gallbladder got blocked off by some stones that I didn't even know were there. Now, when I talk about the system I use, it's lovely, it's amazing, it's beautiful. I will never stop doing it because it's really saved my life. But what I want you to understand is that when you have insulin resistance, it's not just this little innocent bystander thing going on that you don't have to worry about it until you become diabetic. Before you become diabetic, insulin resistance is causing havoc in your system, like crazy things going on. You could be losing hair, you could be losing your eyesight, you could have bleeding teeth and gums, you could have headaches, you could have weight gain that won't go away, you could have extreme fatigue and cortisol levels that are off. You could have so many things. But what I'm talking about today is the gallbladder, right? So what I found out was, even though I reversed my diabetes and got my insulin resistance under control all those years, they're now saying about 14 years you're insulin resistant before it shows up as diabetes. And for me, it was, you're so welcome, it was about 40 years. When we look back at my health history, we can go, okay, we see where this may have been. And that was about 40 years ago as a teenager. So 40 years of being insulin resistant and doing all of these things that kept me from going into diabetes, I didn't know. But along the way, the insulin resistance is still there. Now my liver is getting fatty. Now my gallbladder is compromised. Now, as a 50-something-year-old, I have a gallbladder full of stones that are starting to dislodge and really put my life at risk. So why do I talk about insulin resistance and the system all the time? Because I don't want you going through that. And I want you to understand what can happen to you if you're not taking care of your insulin resistance now. So this is not just I gained weight, or I have diabetes and I want to get over that thing. Like, you guys see my page very differently than you see most people who are talking about the system, because I'm really here to help you understand that this is preventative so you don't ever end up here. Okay, I don't want somebody ending up in the hospital, or worse yet, dealing with the pain and not understanding what's going on, and then it costing their life, because it almost cost me mine. Now I have to, on the other side, learn to live without a gallbladder because I was so panicked. You know, they're like, your gallbladder is just full of these stones and we can't leave it in there because they're going to dislodge again and you're going to end up here again. We have to yank that thing out. And I'm like, amen, hallelujah. I don't ever want to go through that again. Take it out. They're telling me it's not going to cause any problems. Well, guess what? When you have your gallbladder removed, now you end up with things like you have thyroid problems, you have issues with thyroid hormones, you have issues with your estrogen, progesterone, all of those hormones. You start putting weight on, it makes you even more insulin resistant. It creates more cortisol in your system. Now you have gastritis and a number of other things going on because your poor liver is trying to do a job that it was never meant to do 24/7. Or like at times when we eat, it's how having to produce more bile. Your body can't break down the food that it's doing, you're eating, because it doesn't have this little storage tank, this little tiny storage tank that stores bile. So when you do eat, it can break down your food. That's gone. So now you're sick and you're having issues when you eat, and you can't eat as much. You can't eat certain foods and you're just sick all the time. And if you do eat wrong foods, and you pay for it. So this is why I'm telling you about insulin resistance. This is why I'm telling you about the simple system that I'm using, so you don't ever have to get here. Okay, I don't want you to get here. How insulin resistance causes some of this: number one, it's causing excess fats in your liver. It's causing your bile to be produced differently. It's causing your gallbladder, it kind of, if I can say it, it almost like paralyzes the gallbladder. So the gallbladder fills up with bile, that substance that breaks down your food. When you eat, it contracts. And then it starts to release that bile to break down your food. in the presence of insulin, that gallbladder can't contract like it's supposed to. So now you're not having the bile end up out there. It's staying in the gallbladder. It's creating this thicker and thicker sludge that turns into crystals and then ends up as stones. Now you have a problem. Houston, we have a problem, right? So that all is caused by excess insulin in your system. This is only one of the things that's happening when there's excess insulin in your system. This is why I talk about it all the time. So also your liver, if in the presence of insulin, your liver is not doing the job it's supposed to. Fats that are supposed to go back out into your bloodstream and be dispersed end up stacking up in the liver, stacking up in your visceral fat, and now you're having problems because you have this brown fat that's around your organs that's building up and in and around your liver, shutting those organs down and shutting your liver down and causing issues there. So it's important. It's not just the heart. I love talking about the heart and the blood pressure and all those things, but this is affecting everything from what did I do a video the other day? From the mouth to the butt. It affects everything in your gut, including liver, kidneys, gallbladder. I'll be talking about kidneys tomorrow and Saturday. So stay tuned for that stuff. Now, I'm going to go over this really quick, and then I'm going to talk to you about fruit juice because I know somebody asked about the fruit juice. Okay. So you guys, all I did, and yeah, I'm going to show you a product that I'm using because it really is the one thing that helped me that my doctors were like, what did you do? Because they tried all these medications and it wasn't working. And we all know that health is not coming from a pill. Health is not coming from a shot. Okay. If we have a dietary problem, a medication is not going to fix it. We all know that. Don't we agree? Can you guys agree to that? Right? It's not fixing the root of the problem. So this, what I'm doing now is a tea that I drink in the morning. Now the tea gives me energy. It helps to shut down my hunger hormones. It helps me burn fat for fuel. It helps boost my ketones. It helps physical endurance and performance by 10 to 13%, but I'm not jittery like coffee and all of that. It's just an amazing clarity energy. And it's safe because it's just real food, but it's highly purified, extremely concentrated, about 375 times of any other normal form of that tea. Right. Health comes from doing what's right for our bodies. So when we look at our food industry, and you guys, big news for you, big disclosure, even our organic food is so modified, genetically modified from what it was meant to, that we're not getting what we need from those foods. So the second part of this is a fiber that I drink, or a pre-meal drink that I put into my body that gives me 7 different fibers, soluble and insoluble, that have very different actions. Every fiber that you eat has a different action. So if you're saying, well, I'm just going to get more fiber, I'm going to go eat a bunch of spinach, that's not going to give you all the fibers you need. Just having a green salad is not going to give you all the fibers you need to mediate sugars, to clean your gut. We have a fiber that is for cleaning the gut because I'm doing a 2-month cleanse trying to get my liver healthy, right? It has like 27 different types of fiber in it because it's meant to clean you out. This is meant to help regulate blood sugars and fats. In fact, we have a 90-day money get back guarantee on the fact that if you do your blood work before you start the system, and you do the system for 90 days and your blood work does not positively change, as in A1C, blood glucose, and triglycerides, you get your money back, no questions asked. Okay. Fibers have been extremely stripped from our foods. There's a reason why things are so huge. Like, look at, if a peach used to be smaller than my fist, much smaller than my fist, more the size, I can't even find something as small as a peach used to be, and now they're bigger than my fist. How did we get them so big and plump and juicy? Because we stripped the fibers out. We stripped a number of other things out, including vitamins and enzymes and all that. We pumped it up with glucose, or in this case, fructose, and now we have this big, juicy, plump, super sweet. Of course we love it. It's full of sugar, and it doesn't have any of the bitter. It doesn't have any of that. Pears, apples, oranges, grapes, watermelon. I don't know if you guys have been on my watermelon. When I talk about watermelon, but it's basically, I call it sugar water in a shell. Now, I love watermelon. But you guys, we're going to talk about fruit and the liver, right? So the liver is, there's 2 things that affect your liver: alcohol and fructose. Okay. So glucose does not get, or does not get through your liver like fructose does. So we have to be careful with fruits. I love fruits. I think they're healthy for us to eat. They become really unhealthy when we eat them in the form of fruit juice. Sorry. So what happens is you look back even 30 years ago, and there was this thing called fatty liver disease. They didn't even precede it with alcohol because they knew that if you had fatty liver disease, you likely were an alcoholic and your liver was taxed because of it was trying to produce the sugars from the alcohol, right? Now, all of a sudden, we have people who aren't drinking any alcohol, including children, and they're having fatty liver disease. So they come up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That comes from excess fructose. We are eating way more fruit and fruit juice than our grandparents did, than we ever did. Fruits are amazing, but treat them, in my book, treat them like the treat that they are. They shouldn't be the substance of your meal, right? It's putting a lot of load on your liver when you're eating fructose that's going through your system too quickly, ends up in your liver. Now your liver is taxed. Now it's storing it as fat in and around the liver. You have fatty liver. You have a number of things I'm going to be talking about later this week. Watch for those videos. So the big cue is, if you're going to have fruits, number one, eat them, don't drink them. Look it, I was like everybody else. I went through, my kids know there was a whole phase in our lives when I was a single mom. We did not have soda pop. We did not have any other drinks in the house. It was water or fruit juice because I bought into the idea that fruit juice was the healthy thing to give them. Now, when like I was in the airport the other day and I kind of chuckled like to myself because not everybody knows this stuff, right? When Dr. Ben Bickman first said he would rather give his kids soda than fruit juice, I was like, what? But you have to understand and this also makes sense too, why they now have Pepsi or Coke or whatever that says real sugar, because the sugar or the sweetener in most of those sodas come from a vegetable source, which don't spike your insulin as quickly, which don't tax your liver as heavily. So is it healthier? I don't know, but it's just not causing the insulin spikes and the liver trauma that fructose does. And sugar is higher in fructose, right? Because it's cane sugar is higher in fructose. So why he says that is because when you're drinking that fruit juice, it's like just straight shot of fructose into your liver. Now your liver's overworking. It's storing that as fat, it's shutting down, and you're having cirrhosis and all of these other things that come down the line. Heavy metals do destroy our brains too. I agree with that. But I do more with the insulin resistance. So I do dabble in other stuff, but that's not my wheelhouse. And yeah. Oh, and the heavy, okay, I see that. I didn't see they have heavy metals in them. It's scary what goes into our food as they process it, you guys. Like I have been doing castor oil packs on my liver to try and help. And you can't believe the trouble I had to go through to find like cold pressed, natural, non-hexane castor oil. Is it insane that we even have to know those things to do this? And hexane is one of the things that I talk about with seed oils. It's a solvent. It's how those oils or fats are created. They're drenched in the solvent. Now there are people who are like, oh well, it's cleaned of those solvents before it comes out. Do you really trust that all those solvents are gone from those oils by the time it gets to you? Because my body is like, there's something wrong here. So by the way, and I got to get the name right because I keep saying that I'm going to, but I'm going to just say Rockefeller because I think that's who it was. Developed those vegetable oils and seed oils because they had this, the food industry has this like they're stripping the corn off to create this canned corn and stuff. They have all this waste. They're like, what are we going to do? So they realized if they strip all of that stuff, all of the stuff that goes into the waste bin after they've processed the rest of your food, if they drench it in hexane and go through this process, they can create an oil out of it. Now, those oils were meant to be machine oils, but they realized, we're making them out of food so we can market them as a food product, something that was developed as a machine oil. That's why it has a high flash point. That's why restaurants can cook in it and all that, and it doesn't break down like olive oil and avocado oil and all of that, because it was developed as a machine oil to have a high flash point. This is what they're telling you to put in your body and expect you to be healthy and sane and like It's crazy. It's causing damage to your liver, much less the insulin resistance it causes and all of that. So you guys, um, just look for the videos this week. If you are on my TikTok, you'll see them at the very top of my list this week, all of the stuff on gut health. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you'll see them the most recent. On Facebook, it's Living Vibrantly with Misha. And if you go to that page, you'll see those videos at the top, plus some script video, not video, come on, some text posts that where I talk about all of these things, where you guys, if you want to learn and understand what's happening, it's all there. So this whole thing, guys, really comes back to the insulin resistance though, okay? When we're having these foods that are so high in glucose or fructose or sugars that are converting in our system, whether it's fructose or not, we're spiking our insulin. And so I just want to go over really quickly, because when we're eating these foods, and I don't know how many of you guys have been told to eat every 2 hours, that we need to eat. And I say this almost every, because I get on this gal's live, I see her, she pops up all the time, probably because I stop. Beautiful woman, she's lost a lot of weight, she's doing some fitness coaching, she's trying to, in her mind, she's trying to do what's best for people. I get it. So I'm not negative to her or anything, won't say her name, but she's coaching people to eat every 2 hours. Now, every metabolic doctor that I've listened to says that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. So let's think about that really quick, you guys, if you will, for a minute. And if you guys have questions, let me know, because I don't want to talk at you. I want to talk with you. But when we're eating every 2 hours, let's break it down a step further. When we eat food, it goes into our system. We start digesting, right? Our saliva starts breaking it down. Our gut breaks it down even further. It gets into our intestines. Now the liver and the gallbladder are creating some more of that bile, right? That's helping break things down. You also have other hormones in there like amylase that are breaking down those molecules so that it can deliver to your body as fuel. What our food really is supposed to be is fuel. But when we're eating the food that we have available today, it's turning into this fuel source or glucose much quicker than it was ever meant to be. So now comes in this hormone called insulin. And insulin is a great hormone. It is the carrier of that energy. So insulin comes in, we eat food, we get energy. Insulin comes in and goes, woohoo, there's all this energy. I'm going to be this big tanker truck that's going to carry all this energy to every cell in the body. So now that tanker truck of insulin is taking that around to your cells, delivering it as energy so your cells can grow, regenerate, right? And under normal circumstances, that's an amazing thing to happen. I wouldn't want to live without insulin. That's what type 1 diabetics are dealing with, okay? So what happens though is we're eating so much that's turning into glucose. Now that tanker truck becomes a fleet of trucks that's running through your body trying to offload all of this gas or fuel. And the cells are like, whoa, we're full. We got your last delivery. We don't need any more of you. And so the tanker trucks are going around trying to find places. Now, some cells are like, oh, we like you. Come in more. So you end up with skin tags because your skin is producing too many cells. You end up with dark skin cells because that pigmentation is producing too much. You have other problems where stuff is producing too much, like in the endothelium, the inner layer of your blood, the inner layer of your blood vessels, they take up too much and they start to thicken up and it narrows down your blood vessels. So some cells are taking in too much and that's causing a problem. Some cells are like, whoa, slow down, Betty, we don't want you anymore. and then that causes a problem, right? Either way, there's this problem. So what's happening with insulin resistance is when we have these high levels of insulin and people are telling you to, Teresa, I'm so glad. I'd love to know why you started on the system. Can you tell us that? So when you're eating every 2 hours, you're continually spiking the insulin, right? So now that fleet gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you have this fleet of tanker trucks out there. And they're like, okay, we offloaded all of that energy. Cells that are taking up too much of it, fat cells start getting filled up, but the tanker trucks are running around empty now. And they're like, I need more. I need more energy to deliver because you hired me to be out here. So I want to do my job. That's what insulin is like. You were put on 3 blood pressure meds a day and was, oh yeah, Teresa, I was on only 2 blood pressure medications. I'm off all of them. I would love to know how this goes for you because it's changed my life. But so we have these trucks out there. Now we have people telling you to eat every 2 hours. So now you're telling the fleet of trucks that are delivering energy that they need to be there. So they're continually asking for more energy. You're hungry all the time. But when they're delivering it, remember, some of your cells don't want it anymore. So where are they going to put the excess? Your body's storage cells. Your body's storage cells are fat. So you have the white jiggly fat on the outside that most of us are dealing with. And then you have the brown visceral fat that lies under the belly, the gut muscles, and it starts to crowd out your organs. So the white fat is not very pretty, but it's not as damaging, right, as the visceral fat. And insulin resistance creates more of that visceral fat. So now, when you've been doing that for a long time and your particular fat cells start to get too full, now we're going to shift and think of a water balloon, because if a water balloon gets too full, it's going to explode, right? Well, your fat cells get like that. They're like, oof, I am so full, I can't take any more on. When it gets to that point, it starts spilling that glucose back out into the bloodstream because it doesn't have any more room for storage. So it's like a storage unit. You can only pack so much in there, and then all of a sudden you've got overflow and you got to find someplace else to put it. Your fat cells are the same. Now when the fat cells are there and that's spilling back out into your bloodstream, guess what that's called? That's called diabetes. Now you've gone from being insulin resistant to diabetes. No doctor ever told you that you were probably having a problem until they're like, oh, damn, your blood sugars are up. We need to take care of this. So again, I address insulin resistance because we want to stop that before it gets to that stage. And eating every 2 hours is only exacerbating it. So we should only eat a couple of times a day. It's okay to eat bigger meals. It's not about calorie counting or calorie restriction. It's about giving your body a rest from the insulin. So, and part of what the system does that I've been doing, I'm going to read your comments here. So, Teresa, have you been able to lose any weight yet? I'd love to know that. And you guys, I want to talk about weight as well. So, Blenda, been on 5 to 6 weeks, and it's awesome. Yeah, so here's the thing too. When we look at the system that I'm doing, again, a drink in the morning, right? A tea in the morning gives you energy, shuts down your hunger, and helps you fat burn. And these 2 pre-meal drinks that you have before your first 2 biggest meals, we're giving the body a rest from the insulin. Hey, Janice. And so what I want you to understand is, when we talk about weight loss, one of the reasons I rarely talk about weight loss, I will show some pictures and stuff and I'll talk about weight loss then, but I don't address weight loss a lot because this is not a weight loss system. This is a reverse your insulin resistance system. Weight loss comes as a side effect of you getting healthy, because there's a truth that everybody needs to know. If you don't have high amounts of insulin in your body, you cannot put on fat. The only way you're putting on fat, it's not that you got fat and then you had an insulin resistance problem. It's that you had an insulin resistance problem and it made you fat. Okay. So take away the excess insulin. Now those fat stores can go away. But in the beginning, what's happening with insulin resistance, because remember, some cells will take up too much and some cells won't take up enough. So things like ligaments, joints, meniscus, labrum, bones, muscles, may be the ones that are starving off. You'll see people who have insulin resistance and diabetes look, I call it flaccid, like they just don't have a lot of muscle tone, right? That's because those cells are starving and the other cells, like fat cells, are filling up. when you start to reverse that process and you become more insulin sensitive, now those cells, those tissues that were starving before are starting to grow. So now you're putting on healthy levels of muscle and other tissues and bone that you didn't have before. So those things are denser than your fat. They weigh more per volume than fat. So you're probably losing fat, but putting on actual healthy tissue that your body needs to function properly. I didn't lose weight in the first 6 weeks I was on the system, but I sure lost inches. And I started fitting into clothes that I hadn't been able to fit into for a while. So if you're starting the system, if you're on the system, if you're thinking about doing it, why we say toss the scale is not because I don't believe in that so much. It's the fact that it can lie to you. When we're insulin resistant and we don't have healthy amounts of dense tissue, it's hard to tell if it's healthy weight loss or if it's actually that you're gaining healthy tissue and losing the fat. So make sure you're doing that, okay? Make sure you take pictures before and after. There was nothing, nobody told me that, and I'm smart, I should have known, right? But I should have taken the embarrassing pictures in my underwear before, and I should have done all the measurements and that. I didn't, but I had my clothes to go by. But I'm going to advise all of you guys to do that because you'll be surprised when you get there, when you get to 4 weeks in, when you get to 6 weeks in, and you start thinking, well, this isn't really working, and you go check your pictures from what you were before, a month before, and where you are now. And when you look at your measurements, you're going to see the difference, even though the numbers on that scale don't look like they're different. So do yourself that favor. Again, I'm talking about a system that's a tea I drink in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before each of my meals, reversed my diabetes, my hypertension, my hyperlipidemia, all of that, and I'm not on any medications. I've been off medications, all medications for 2 years now, and I was on 10 before. So it's amazing, and it's helping people get their life back and their health back. So that's why I'm on here talking about it. I have another meeting to get to here soon. So I'm going to be signing off in a minute. But before I do, I want to remind you guys, if you're on TikTok, just go to my profile, tap on the link. On Facebook, I just lost you guys. Facebook and YouTube, you just go to mishafayant.biz, or not .biz, .com. I have different. And you'll find all the information there. You guys, I'm going to Facebook, YouTube, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to sign off and finish up on TikTok. If you have questions, please leave them in the chat over here. I will get back and answer them. Check those. You guys will find all of the videos. If you're in my group and you want me to put those videos in the group, say yes on this live stream, and I will make sure to integrate them in the group. I'm just trying to not inundate you with too much in there. But if you want these in there, let me know. I'll get them in there. Otherwise, you guys have a good day. I'm going to finish up with TikTok. Have a great day, guys. All right. So